Hello again, or if you're new, welcome. And welcome back to Chaos Head Noah, where it's time for us to go on a date with our stalker Yua. Let's get into it.
すいません。昨日会ったばかりなのに、こんなお願いをしてしまって。
Again, I'm really sorry. We only just met yesterday, so asking you to come with me for something like this isn't really...
Yeah.
It's fine. I was so nervous. I was leaving school together with a 3D girl. Was I a normie now, or what? I'd always felt like this was all in a completely different world from mine. I never would have thought I'd get to experience something like this. But now I was feeling the intense pressure of Yua's silence. We were just walking side by side, not even talking. So why was this so stressful? And to top it all off, I didn't really know who Yua was, or what her goal was. Just what did she want from an otaku freak like me?
おとといの
So, did you watch?
はい
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Nothing. She started talking to me out of nowhere, so I got surprised, and that weird sound I'd made just came out. Yua also seemed really nervous. Her expression was so tense. She was older than me, so how was she still so innocent? How surprisingly moe. Then again, I probably wasn't the best person to be talking about innocence, since I could hardly manage more than a quick sidelong glance at her. I was too embarrassed to take a proper look at her face. I just couldn't do it.
おとといのブラチュー見ましたよね
You watched the new Bloodtoon episode, right? The one that aired the day before yesterday? Yeah.
私、一箇所だけいまいちよくわからないところがあったんですけど
There was this one part that I didn't quite understand.
すすむくんがセイラちゃんのピンチに駆けつけてきて助けてくれますよねでもどうしてすすむくんはセイラちゃんが危ないって分かったのかなって
Susumu-kun always rushes to rescue Sarah-chan, right? But this time, how did he even know that Sarah-chan was in danger? I don't quite get it.
あれは先週の回に伏線があったんだ。セイラの携帯が鳴ってるシーンが一瞬だけ挿入されてて、着信表示で進むの名前が出てる。
That was foreshadowed in last week's episode. There was that tiny scene where Sarah's phone rang for a moment, right? Susumu's name was on the caller ID.
そういえばそんなシーンありましたね
Now that you mention it, I think I remember that.
山田はそういう細かい伏線をあちこちに貼るのが好きなんだ。キンゴルでも似たようなことをやってた。
Yamataku loves putting that sort of foreshadowing in. There were similar things in Gold Goal, too.
山田くキンゴル
Yamataku? Gold Goal?
いや、山田っていうのはブラチューの監督の愛称だよ。で、山田がブラチューの前に監督やってたアニメがキンゴル。
Yamataku is the nickname of the Bloodtoon director, and he did an anime called Gold Goal before Bloodtoon.
へえじゃあ山田さんって有名な監督さんなんですね
Oh, really? So Yamataku-san is a famous director?
まあ、僕は好きな方かな。なんでかっていうと、
Well, I like him at least. As for why, well... I had been lecturing Yua about the various facets of anime when I realized we were already in front of Animate. Time flew by way faster than I'd expected. I'd let myself get carried away and talked way too much. Well, it didn't help that Yua was such a good listener. She paid such close attention while I shared my wisdom. I couldn't help but want to tell her everything I knew, even though I knew I was falling right into her trap. All this, and yet I wasn't even good at talking. This was the first time I'd ever felt this way. I was talking out loud, but it felt like I was chatting online. It was a strange feeling.
なんだかドキドキしてきました
Oh dear, I'm getting a little nervous.
先に帰ったりしないでくださいね
Please don't leave without me, okay?
うん。
Sure. Yua only got more and more nervous as she went up and spoke to the store employee. It was clear that she was out of her comfort zone, but all I could do was just stand there and watch as she placed the pre-order for the post-awakening version Seta figure. There weren't any opportunities to escape. Yua kept anxiously glancing back at me, so I couldn't budge an inch. Right after that, she even forced me to look around the store with her. Yua was looking all around with a big grin on her face, saying things like, "Wow, there's not enough money in the world to buy all these figures." But even in the face of all that enthusiasm, I just couldn't find it in me to smile back at her. So apparently, Yua took the train to school, which meant I had to accompany her all the way to Shinsen Station. She might not look like it, but she was a devious one, alright. She always managed to get her way, all without making herself look even remotely selfish. Clever girl. Talk about a wolf in sheep's clothing.
西条くんって携帯は持ってないんですか？
So, Nishijo-kun, do you have a cell phone? Once we'd reached the station, Yua suddenly asked me that question. A cell phone? I shook my head weakly.
持ってないんですか。それじゃ連絡が取れないですね。
So you don't have one. I see. I guess we can't stay in touch then.
連絡
What? Why the hell would she want to stay in touch? What, was she going to demand that I texted her about every little thing for the rest of my life?
でも西条くんパソコン持ってましたよね。
Oh, but you do have a computer, don't you?
私も持ってるからメールアドレスを交換しませんか？
I have one too, so maybe we could exchange email addresses.
どうして
Why would we?
その
Um,
フィギュアの発売日に
you know, because when the figure goes on sale,
取りに行かなくちゃいけませんよね。
I have to come pick up my pre-order.
その時にまた一緒に
So maybe we could go together again?
まだ一人でアニメ8に行く勇気はないから。
I still don't have the courage to go to Animate all by myself. She was good.
それに
Besides, she was way too good.
私西条くんと
You see, Nishijo-kun. I knew she had her claws in me, but I just couldn't turn her down. If I did, I'd look like the bad guy.
もっと
I really... 3D was the scariest fucking thing in the world.
仲良くなりたいから。
Would like to get to know you better. How was she doing this? Was it just because I was bad at talking to people? Or was she just too good? Either way, Yua seemed intent on not leaving until she had my email. Yet, at the same time, I could sense a bit of unease behind those glasses of hers. I could practically feel my will to resist draining from my body. There were goosebumps all over my body, shivers running down my spine, but I couldn't run away, and I couldn't turn her down. There was definitely something up with Yua. This aura she had, it wasn't normal. Couldn't really put into words exactly what it was that bothered me so much, but whatever it was, something wasn't right. Before I knew it, I'd torn out a scrap of notebook paper, written down my email address, and handed it to her. She took it, looking happy as can be, then quickly bowed her head and disappeared into the station. It felt like my soul had left my body. I just stood there, completely dumbfounded. Even after 10 minutes passed, I couldn't move an inch. Nightheart in chat. So, what do you make of all of this? Of her? Because personally, I don't have the slightest clue. There's no way she doesn't have ulterior motives or something. It doesn't make any sense otherwise. Hey, you listening, Grim? Grim, what aerogay is this? That night, I decided to consult Grim about Yua. I figured I might as well. If I just kept my paranoia to myself, I wouldn't get anywhere. And that was the response I'd gotten. Well, not like I could blame him. First time I'd spoken with Yua, I reacted the exact same way. Nightheart, it was stupid of me to think you'd be any help, Grim. Grim, Now wait one fucking second. You were being serious? You actually managed to raise a flag with someone? You really have a way of getting whatever you want, huh? Now who said they weren't into 3D again? Neidhart, it's not like that, dude. Grim's reaction was almost identical to Misumi-kun's. Were they the same person or something? Grim, well, for a turbo virgin like you, Neidhart, now that you have a girl, it should be easy to leave otakudom behind and lose your V-card. You gotta be careful though, like if you start talking to her about your school swimsuit fetish, she'll dump your ass, so use common sense.
メールだよボケなす
You've got mail, you big dum-dum. Neidhart, what's wrong with the swimsuit fetish? Grim, this guy's hopeless. I'd better do something quick. Oh, out of nowhere I heard Seraton's voice. That was my custom email notification sound. I casually went to check my email, and the sender's name was Usunoki Yua.
うわ、早速来た。
Wow, she sent one already? Neidhart, I got an email. Just now. Grim, whoop, there it is! This was the first time I'd ever gotten an email from a 3D girl. I gulped, then clicked to open it. Yua's usual elegance and purity shone through the email, and by using a lot of emoticons, she gave it a bit of a friendly tone. Good evening, this is Kusunoki. I sent this email as soon as I was able to. I would appreciate it if you added me to your address book. My apologies for making you accompany me today. Even so, I still had a lot of fun. Perhaps because it was my first time going to a store like that. Or maybe it was because Nishijo-kun was with me? What time will you be coming into school tomorrow, Nishijo-kun? Oh, I'm only asking because I was hoping I'd be able to say hello tomorrow morning, that's all. It would be nice if we could run into each other again tomorrow. Well, I'll be sure to email you again soon. Good night. But when she said things like, maybe it was because Nishijo-kun was with me, or I was hoping I'd be able to say hello tomorrow morning, I just couldn't help but feel like she was up to something. Grim, post it now! Neidhart, it's tame, chill the fuck out. Just usual greetings and shit. Grim wouldn't stop pestering me, so I just gave up and posted the entire email. Though I did censor me and Yua's personal information at least. Grim, oh ho ho, would you look at that lovey-dovey email? KYS Neidhart, you normie scum. Neidhart, please take this seriously. This must be some kind of trap. Grim, yeah? How tight that tinfoil hat you got on. You sure you're not overthinking it? It just looks like you raised a flag with this chick to me. You're almost at the good end already. Neidhart, that's what I mean. There's no way this is real. You think this could happen to an otaku freak like me? There's no way. You think a cute girl would try to pick me up IRL? Grim, dude, lol, are you seriously complimenting your girlfriend already? Neidhart, could you quit trolling for 1 second? Grim, come on, I already told you, you're just overthinking it. We're two of a kind, aren't we, Neidhart? We both know good girls like that don't exist anymore. Yeah, I was fully aware, but she really was just that nice, and that's exactly what didn't feel right to me. Grim, well maybe her stalking shit went a bit too far, but that's kinda hot, don't you think? It means she really likes you. And you said she likes anime too. Yeah, no way such a perfect girlfriend exists, bro. Not for us otaku, anyway. Just don't go ruining her with your degenerate shit. Well, that might not be so bad. No, scratch that. That was exactly what I wanted. Grim, still, cheer up a bit. She made the first move, bro. Neidhart, I'm not into 3D.
そうだけど。
Grim, you say that, but we both know you really want to go out with her, am I right? If you want to de-otakify yourself, now's your chance. You won't get a second one, and you know it. Well, you're right, but... Grim, congrats, you're popular now. Won't last long, so don't let it go to waste. Just keep calm and go on the attack. Just be Nightheart, IRL. You can do it. You got the green light, bro. If I could just do it, I wouldn't be going through so much turmoil. Like, I had realized something when I was talking with you the other day. Sure, there were a couple of moments where I had fun or felt happy, but aside from that, I just felt annoyed and completely exhausted. If that was what I had to go through with every IRL interaction, then I'd honestly rather just live in the 2D world, where I could do whatever I wanted. And that was why I decided not to reply to you as email. Fire burned bright in the sky. Scorching red cinders danced around the incinerator. The flame was fueled by a sailor-style school uniform, along with countless textbooks. On a foothill overlooking the Seto Inland Sea, a girl stood in her home's garden. The steam whistles of boats echoed in the distance, and the nearby trees gently swayed in the refreshing sea breeze. In the midst of such a serene scene, the girl, Orihara Kozue, stood still and alone in front of the incinerator, bathing in the somber ambience of its cinders. The girl's gaze was locked onto the school uniform and textbooks as they were slowly reduced to ashes, each becoming clad in a crimson glimmer. Only until yesterday, they had been her school uniform and her textbooks. Despite having lit the fire herself, the girl did not move from the spot, perhaps out of a lingering sense of regret. That, too, lasted only a moment. She suddenly knitted her eyebrows and covered her ears as hard as she could. She gasped in agony, and yet she did nothing more. The girl did not moan, nor did she raise any tearful complaints. All she let out was a series of ragged breaths. She shook her head repeatedly from side to side, as if to express a fierce, visceral objection. And as she did, her strength slowly started to crumble, and she collapsed to the ground. She fell on her backside with a thud, let her jaw droop as if utterly exhausted, and looked up to the sky with a dazed expression on her face. Minutes later, she was still in that exact same position, not having moved a single muscle. Until suddenly, she turned around with conviction, as if she had heard someone call out to her. She looked towards the house's porch. The wooden house had been built over 50 years ago, so despite it being daytime, it appeared quite dim. Anything beyond the porch could barely be seen. Kozue slowly stood back and walked over to the porch, and at that very moment, her mother appeared with impeccable timing.
あら、梢ちゃん、探してたのよ。もう荷物の整理はできたの?
Oh, there you are, Kozue-chan. I've been looking all over for you. Have you finished packing yet? Kozue promptly nodded and slowly sat down.
あさってにはもう、この家ともお別れなのね。
We'll have to say goodbye to our little old place in a couple of days. Her mother took a seat next to her, gazing toward the inland sea with a gentle look in her eye.
東京なんて行くの、梢ちゃんは初めてよね。
This'll be your first time in Tokyo, won't it, Kozue-chan?
いいお友達ができるといいわね。
Don't worry, I'm sure you'll make lots and lots of friends. Despite her mother's caring words, Kozue did not nod, nor even shake her head in response. She simply remained silent, gazing wistfully towards the still-burning incinerator in the corner of the garden. Another week came, and with it, another school day. As usual, I headed to school with my head hung low, depressed as ever. Autumn was starting to come in full swing. The leaves of the trees in Shoto Park were slowly changing color, and I was starting to feel chilly in my short-sleeve uniform. I supposed it made sense that I'd be surprised by the change of season, given I rarely went outside in the first place. I still hadn't really registered that summer had ended. My weekend had consisted of non-stop ESO. Grim had kept on bugging me about Yua, but I just ignored him. I hadn't gotten an email from Yua since that first one. I hadn't replied to her first one either, so maybe she'd finally given up on me. I really hoped that was the case. Whenever I talked to Yua, my feelings always got all jumbled up. Those interactions always made me have a little hope. But there was no point in being so optimistic. At the end of the day, I was just an otaku freak. My whole life I never had any success with 3D, so I just given up on it. Please, don't give me any hope. Please don't have any hope for me. Just as I thought that, someone tapped my shoulder from behind. I figured it was Nanami or Misumi-kun, but when I turned around, I was shocked. Nishijo-kun? Yua was looking at me with a smile on her face. Her cheeks were a little flushed. Why was she so out of breath? I was right behind you, and I thought, oh, is that Nishijo-kun? So I ran to catch up.
No.
Had she really not given up yet? Did she still have some hope left in me? Good morning, Nishijo-kun. Yeah.
やっと言えました。土日を含めて4日もかかってしまいましたけど。
Whew, I finally got a chance to say it. It only took me 4 days, if you count the weekend, that is.
あ、先週メールを送ったんですけど、読んでもらってます。
Oh, right. I emailed you last week. Did you read it? I found myself nodding out of reflex.
よかった。返事がなかったから、てっきり届いていないかと思って何度か送り直そうとしたんですけど、我慢しておいて正解でした。
Oh, good. I didn't see any replies in my inbox, so I worried that maybe it didn't send properly. I considered sending it again, but I guess I was right to be patient. Seriously, what the hell did Yua want from me? Did she expect me to like her back? Did she want me to be her boyfriend? And then did she want us to live out some intimate lovey-dovey fantasy together? There was no way I could do that. No way I could be that normal, no matter how hard I tried. I really wanted to, but it just wasn't possible. I still didn't understand why Yua even liked me in the first place, which made it all the more impossible to trust her. So I just couldn't do it.
西條くん、どうしたんですか?
Nishijo-kun, are you alright?
ずっと立ち止まってるので。
Well, you've just kind of been standing there for a while now. Upon realizing that, I quickly started to walk away, leaving Yua behind. But before I could get very far, Yua had already caught up with me.
昨日、西條くんのクラスに行ったんですけど、いませんでしたよね。もしかして風邪でもひいて休んでるんじゃないかと思って心配だったんです。
I went over to your classroom yesterday, but you weren't there, right? So I thought that maybe you'd caught a cold and taken the day off. I was very worried.
でも、元気そうでよかった。
But you seem to be doing just fine, so that's good.
たまにしか。
Sometimes.
はい?
Sorry?
僕、たまにしか学校来ない。
I just don't come to school sometimes.
みんなから引きこもりって思われてる。
Everyone calls me a shut-in. Did that break the spell? You're totally disillusioned now that you know the truth, right? If so, I didn't mind. I'd never gotten my hopes up anyway. Go ahead and call me an otaku freak, and then after that, never talk to me again.
そうですか。でも、今日は会えてよかったです。
Oh, really? I see. Well, I'm really glad I got to see you out today then.
No.
I was left speechless. All I could manage to do was stare at Yua's smile, but when our eyes met, I got flustered and looked down. How was she not disgusted by me?
っていうか、たまにでも学校に来てるなら、西條くんは引きこもりじゃないと思います。
And if you ask me, even if you don't always show up, I don't think that makes you a shut-in.
すいません。分かったようなこと言っちゃって。
Oh, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't talk like I fully understand your situation. I just...
でも
But
苦痛だよ。
going to school kills me.
だとしたら偉いです。
And that's exactly why I respect you a lot.
え
I never thought I'd ever hear someone say that to me. What the hell was respectable about a total loser like me? A gentle smile had spread over Yua's face. A smile so sweet, it could cure any disease. That was genuinely what I thought in that moment.
だって西条くんは辛いのに頑張って学校に来ていますから。
After all, even though it's so hard for you, you still make the effort to come sometimes.
普通なら普通は来られないですよ。
Most people wouldn't choose to do things that cause them pain.
でも
But
僕はオタだしキモいし。
I'm an otaku. Freak.
私西条くんの話を聞くの好きですよ。
But I like listening to you talk, Nishijo-kun. What the hell? What was with all this validation? Why did hearing it make me feel so good about myself? It felt like Yua was embracing me, all the way down to my core. Like she was giving me the right to be here, to exist in this moment. It felt like, when I was with her, maybe I could even be a normal person again.
大変予例ですよ。
Oh no, the bell! I hadn't realized until now, but almost all the students were already gone. Everyone had made their way into the school building.
西条くん、それじゃあ私失礼します。
Alright, I'll be sure to talk to you later, Nishijo-kun.
今日の放課後時間ありますか？
Oh, I almost forgot. Would you happen to have any time after school today?
もしよかったらその一緒に帰りましょう。
Maybe we could walk home together? If you want, I mean? With a timid tone, Yua mumbled her words, a faint blush on her cheeks.
放課後中庭で待ってます。もし気が向いたら来てください。
I'll wait for you in the courtyard, so if you want to come, meet me there, please.
無理に来なくても全然平気ですから。
Ah, but don't feel like you have to. It's perfectly fine if you don't come.
失礼します。
I'll talk to you later, if you want, I mean. Yua bowed elegantly, then darted off toward the third-year classrooms. I watched her disappear into the building, then I pinched my cheek. It really wasn't a dream, or a delusion. I couldn't focus on my classes all day after that. Or rather, I didn't bother trying to focus. I just rested my head on my hand, staring sluggishly into the autumn sky outside the window. My teachers, my classmates, none of them ever paid attention to me. But Yua did. Yua was different from the other shitbags at this school. I couldn't stop thinking about her. I couldn't stop having delusions about her, and before I knew it, classes were over for the day.
Yo, Taku. 今日もデートか?
What's up, Taku? You got a date today, too?
この前のメガネのことはうまくいってるんだろうな。
How'd your last date with the glasses chick go?
おいおい、ニートだからって躊躇してんなよ。向こうがお前のこと気に入ってくれてんなら、付き合うか付き合わないかはともかく、やっちまうのが礼儀。
Wait, you're not holding back just because you're in need, are you? She made the first move, so it's not a question of whether or not you take her out. You just gotta, man.
そんなことしないよ。
I'm not doing any of that.
おい、なんだよいきなり大声出して。
Whoa, what's up with the shouting?
ユアとはそんなことしない。
You and I aren't like that.
は？お前まだ言ってんの？なんで最初から諦めるんだよ。そろそろ引きこもりから卒業しようぜ。
Huh? This shit again? Why are you giving up on her already? It's about time you got out of your shut-in phase, ain't it?
僕は引きこもりじゃない。
I'm not a shut-in. And that wasn't even what this was about. But there was no point in trying to explain that to Misumi-kun, a guy who only thought with the wrong head. So ignoring how puzzled Misumi-kun was, I quickly made my way out of the classroom. The shortest path from here to the courtyard is through the skyway to the third-year building, then down the stairs, I think. I didn't come to school often enough to have a good grasp on the layout. I didn't even know where half the club rooms were. So I was a little bit anxious as I walked down the hallway to the next building. As I walked, I noticed a girl standing alone in the middle of the hall, staring up at the sky. Her face looked stiff, so despite her looking out the window, it wasn't in the wistful kind of way. She was obviously in everyone's way, but she didn't seem to care in the slightest. I know you can hear me walking towards you. Move along, will you? I'm in a bit of a hurry here. I was getting real DQN vibes from her, and I didn't want anything to do with it. So I tried to keep my distance and slip by Girl B without getting noticed.
Oi.
You. Oh shit, was she talking to me? Fuck. Was she gonna threaten me and take all my money? Or take me to the DQN hangout spot and have me lynched just because she didn't like my face? Or worse? Give me a fucking break. What did I ever done to deserve this? I looked toward Girl B. She was staring at me.
お前、誰だ?
Who are you?
Eh?
Huh? Did she just ask me that? I'm Nishijo Takumi, but this is the first time I've ever spoken to her, so obviously she wouldn't know that. So I was right. Whatever she wants from me, it can't be good.
すいません。
Pardon me. I quickly bowed to avoid looking Girl B in the face, then ran away as fast as I could. After bolting through the hall, down the stairs, and out the door, I shot a look behind me at the third-year building. It seemed like the scary girl hadn't come after me. I was safe. To be completely honest, I was getting tired of all this bullshit. Wherever I went in the third dimension, I was always running into another goddamn trap. I took a second to catch my breath, and then looked for the courtyard. The courtyard was between the school building and the pool. It was so narrow, it was more like a path than an actual garden. There were a few evenly spaced flower beds spread across the courtyard. The violet-covered flowers were especially eye-catching. What kind of flowers are those, I wondered, but I really didn't have a clue. And standing in front of the flower beds was none other than Yua. She stood still, gazing at the flowers listlessly. Just like she'd promised, she'd really waited for me here. She'd waited for me, and me alone. Yua hadn't betrayed me. Maybe I could trust her. Maybe she really was the savior I'd been looking for. Yua looked up and noticed me standing there. And a moment later, her eyes widened. I got shy and looked away, frozen in place. Should I walk toward her? I didn't know. Why was she so surprised? Maybe I shouldn't have come. But as I was lost in thought, Yua ran over to me.
びっくりしました。
I can't believe it.
西条くんが本当に来てくれるなんて。
You actually came, Nishijo-kun.
どうせ来てもらえないって諦めかけてたんです。
I was so close to giving up, thinking you weren't going to come.
でも待っててよかった。
But I'm so glad I waited. I was taken aback. Yua was thinking the same way as me. We both had the same pessimistic mindset. But there was one clear place that we differed. Whenever I had negative thoughts, I'd freeze up and do nothing. But whenever Yua had negative thoughts, she'd take action anyway. I seriously respected her initiative. I wanted to be like that too.
一緒に帰ってくれますか?
So, are we going to walk back together? She timidly asked me, and I nodded in response. Walking side by side, the two of us passed through the school gate. It was a little embarrassing. It felt like other students were staring daggers at me, green with envy. And the more aware of that I became, the more anxious I got. I guess I was right. I really can't walk home alone with a girl. Hmm? I crossed paths with a teacher I'd never seen before. Or at least, I assumed he was a teacher, since he was wearing a suit instead of a school uniform. But wasn't he a little young to be a teacher? Well, I hardly ever came to school, so it only made sense that I wouldn't know what half the teachers looked like. Hell, sometimes I even forgot what my homeroom teacher looked like. The teacher in the suit was looking around restlessly as he headed for the school building.
どうしました？
Is there something wrong?
Uh.
Not knowing how to react, I quickly shook my head, returned to Yua's side, and went back to walking with her. We'd said we'd walk home together, but my base was only 10 minutes from school. Meanwhile, Yua needed to go all the way to Shinsen Station, so I needed to accompany her before I could go home. But, by force of habit, I led Yua into Shoto Park. The park was something of a shortcut on my route to school, saving me about a minute each way.
西条くんって朝よくこの公園でパンを食べてませんか？
So, Nishijo-kun, you eat your breakfast here in the morning, right? Yeah. How did she know that?
やっぱりよく見かけたんです。でもいる時といない時があって。
Uh-huh, I knew it. I've seen you eat here quite often, but I noticed you weren't here every day.
今日ようやくその謎が解けました。学校にたまにしか来ないからだったんですね。
But it looks like I finally solved that mystery. It's just because you don't go to school every day, right?
あ、別にそれがダメって言ってるわけじゃなくてですね。素朴な疑問だったので。
Oh, well, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, just that I was curious. Right. Yua suddenly stopped, turning toward the bench I always ate breakfast on. Nobody was sitting there at the moment.
なんだかここに座っているあなたの背中はすごく辛そうに見えて。
You know, whenever I looked at you from behind while you sat here, you always looked really sad. Yua bent forward slightly, gently stroking the back of the bench.
何度も見かけるうちにだんだん気になってきて。
And then the more I looked at you, the more I wanted to talk to you. The bench was right in front of the fence by the pond. Whenever you sat on it, you could just stare out at the pond without needing to worry about whether others might be looking at you. It was right by the watermill, too, making it even more inconspicuous. That was another huge plus.
ここ最近は姿を見かけなかった日は心配でご飯も喉を通らなかったりしてたんです。
Whenever I didn't see you here, I got so worried that I had trouble eating. Really? I never noticed her looking at me when I was here.
バカみたいですよね。一度も話したこともない人の心配してるなんて。
It's a bit silly, isn't it? Worrying about someone you've never even spoke to?
でも話しかける勇気もなかったので。
But I just couldn't find the courage to talk to you. So her initial stalking was an extension of that? Or maybe not stalking per se, maybe she'd just been looking out for me.
ちょっと座ってみてもいいですか？
Do you mind if we sit down here for a little?
西条くんがどんな景色を見ていたのか私も知りたいから。
I want to see, the scenery you were always looking at, Nishijo-kun. I didn't really have much of a reason to refuse. I nodded my head, still facing out toward the lake. Yua placed her bag on top of the bench and quietly took a seat. She then straightened her posture and gazed out at the lake. It was so incredibly quiet, so incredibly serene, and Yua was sitting right by my side. A gentle breeze drew ripples on the water, and it softly swayed Yua's hair. Was this what it felt like to be a normie? The situation was so ordinary, so casual, so why did I feel like I was about to cry?
ここで朝食をとるのって気持ちよさそうですよね。
Enjoying a nice breakfast here sounds amazing. I looked at the side of Yua's face as she whispered that. If life were an eroge, this is where she'd confess her love. Then we'd lean in, kiss, and the good end credits would roll. And who knows, if the situation called for it, maybe we'd get straight into some exhibitionism.
私も今度やってみようかな。
Maybe I'll give it a try sometime soon. Yua turned and looked up at me. Unable to find the words to say, I looked down at Yua's bag. Cursing my inability to maintain eye contact with the girl, I stared instead at the 3 Gero froggy straps hanging from her bag. Alright, we'll start with the positive delusion. Hold on. Wait a minute. Something about this scene was really nagging at me. And that thing was the Gyro Froggies. Characters that were popular with high school girls. But I'd seen those exact ones before, hadn't I? Where, though? Oh, that's right. Nanami had one attached to her cell phone. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, it was perfectly normal. What did I think was so strange about it? I was just paranoid over nothing. I'm so stupid. Nanami did say that Gyro Froggies were super popular with high school girls, so really, it should come as no surprise that Yua had some too. Yep, nothing out of the ordinary here, not even slightly. Sometimes, having such a big imagination really sucked, and with how terrifying my delusions could be, it got so much worse.
西条くん
Nishijo-kun? Yua was looking at me, tilting her head in confusion. Not knowing how to reply, I just forced a smile.
と、
Ah,
それ、本当に流行ってるんだなって。
those are really popular nowadays, aren't they?
ゲロカエルン。
Those Gyro Froggies. Huh? What kind of reaction was that? Why had her expression turned so stiff? Had I said something wrong? All I'd done was mention the Gyro Froggies as a conversation starter. Nothing else. So then, why? Why had her smile, that gentle smile she'd had this entire time, suddenly vanished? Why did she hang her head, as if she didn't even want to look at me? I couldn't tell what kind of expression she was making anymore. It all gave me a terrible feeling I just couldn't shake. When I'd first laid eyes on those 3 Gyro Froggies hanging from her bag, I'd been hit by a massive sense of deja vu. Looking back, I guess my instincts were right. I had seen those 3 Gyro Froggies somewhere before, and now that I'd mentioned them, Yua was freaking out. Suspicion slowly crept through my head until it completely took over my mind. I wanted to trust Yua, but I didn't know if I should.
ゲロカエルン西条くんも知ってるんですね。
Oh, Nishijo-kun. You've also heard about Gyro Froggies, I see. Her voice lacked even the least bit of composure.
本当に大人気ですよね。私もあんまり可愛いとは思わなかったりするんですけど。
They really are popular, aren't they? I mean, I don't really find them that cute, but
何人かの友達からもらっちゃって気がついたら3つになってまして。
some friends started giving them to me, and before I knew it, I already had 3 of them. The more Yua spun her tail, the more artificial it felt. She wasn't looking at me. She didn't even try to. Her smile was gone, even though until that very moment she'd been so gentle, so sweet. I started to feel dead inside. Please don't say any more, I begged inside my head.
見せてあげましょうか。
Would you like a closer look? Yua reached out for her bag, trying to take the Gyro Froggy straps off of it.
ちょっと待ってくださいね。
Wait just a moment, please. Her hands were trembling. She frantically tried to pull them off of her bag, but they just wouldn't budge.
変だな。どうして外れないんでしょう。絡まっちゃってるのかな。
This is strange. Why aren't they coming off? Are they tangled or something? Yua pulled on the straps a bit too hard, causing the bag to fall off the bench. The bag was unzipped, so all of her notebooks and textbooks spilled out onto the ground. We'll go ahead and do the negative delusion. Hold on. Wait a minute. Something about this scene was really nagging at me. And that thing was the Gyro Froggies, characters that were popular with high school girls. But I'd seen those exact ones before, hadn't I? Where, though? It was in room 36. Whenever I went to At Cafe, I always used room 37. Meanwhile, room 36, the room next door, was always empty. The day I had first met Yua, I'd been shocked to find that someone was actually using it, and they were looking at sites dedicated to new gen, no less. Then I'd come across Yua inside At Cafe, started panicking, then instantly made a run for it. No way, you can't be serious. Was it really her? Back then? In that room? I looked at Yua, who was still sitting on the bench. Her eyes stared at me from behind her glasses, and her gaze collided with mine. It was the first time we'd properly made eye contact since we'd met. There was still a smile on her face for a brief moment, but it quickly changed into a puzzled look. What sort of expression was I making? I couldn't tell. I turned my gaze toward her bag, where the toy straps attached to it once again. I felt the air change as she gasped in response.
Nishijo-kun?
Nishijo-kun? A golden leaf fell off a branch swaying in the wind, and ever so gently, ever so gracefully danced through the air. All sorts of thoughts flashed through my mind. I didn't really understand why, but Garo Froggies were popular, so having a few of them dangling from your bag wasn't anything unusual. But on that day, Yua had probably been there in room 36, and all this time, she'd never mentioned it even once. And to make matters worse, she'd been researching New Gen. I'd almost completely forgotten about those incidents already, but I'd been a witness to one of them. That gruesome spectacle revived itself again in my head, and then I saw a flash of the culprit's face.
これですか？ゲロカエルンって言うんです。何人かの友達にもらっちゃって、気がついたら3つになってまして。
Is it about these things? They're called ghetto froggies. Some friends started giving them to me, and before I knew it, I already had 3 of them. Yua's smile had gotten slightly stiffer. He reached out for her bag, trying to take the ghetto froggy strap off of it.
最近、女子高生に大人気なんですよ。私はあんまり可愛いとは思わないんですけど。
They've gotten very popular with high school girls recently. I don't really find them that cute, though. Yua's hands were trembling. She frantically tried to pull them off her bag, but they wouldn't budge.
変だな。どうして外れないんでしょう。ちょっと待ってくださいね。西条くんにも見せてあげ。
This is strange. Why aren't they coming off? Wait just a moment, please. I'll give you a closer look as soon as I get them off. Yua pulled on the straps a bit too hard, causing the bag to fall off the bench. The bag was unzipped, so all of her notebooks and textbooks spilled out onto the ground. And no delusion? Hold on. Wait a minute. Something about this scene was really nagging at me. That thing was the Ghetto Froggies, characters that were popular with high school girls. But I'd seen those exact ones before, hadn't I? Where, though? I just couldn't put my finger on it. It definitely felt like I'd seen them before, but I just couldn't remember where. Was my memory really that bad? I'd always been confident in my memorization skills, and they never failed to help me score well on my tests. I was pretty smart after all. So why were they failing me now, and at such an important time? Or at least what felt like one. Where had I seen them before? I felt that if I took a closer look at the Ghetto Froggies, maybe then I'd remember. As for what would happen next, though, I didn't know. But I just wanted to stop feeling so hopelessly lost, so I almost subconsciously extended my hand and reached for the bundle of Ghetto Froggies. No! Suddenly, Yua slapped my hand away. What just happened? I was completely dumbfounded. Yua looked away from me, then awkwardly started to get up off the bench. But as she did, her hand hit the 3 Ghetto Froggies that were hanging from her bag. And almost as if in slow motion, Her bag slowly fell off the bench and crashed to the ground. The bag was unzipped, so all of her notebooks and textbooks spilled out onto the ground.
私ったら何をやってるんでしょう。
Oh, silly me. I'm all over the place today. Just a few minutes ago, I might have even thought of you as ditziness's moe, but at the present moment, I was just frozen in place. And that was because one of the fallen notebooks had flipped open. Tons of notes and newspaper snippets were scattered across the ground. It looked like it was some sort of scrapbook, and all the notes, all the newspaper snippets, everything was focused on a certain string of cases. And its name was written there, clear as day. New Gen.
なんて。
Why? My voice came out ragged. Yua, in a panic, started frantically gathering everything up and shoving it back into her bag. Once she did, she held the bag close to her chest and stood up. She looked toward me and nodded, her expression intensely uncomfortable. Her smile from before was nowhere to be found.
それは。
Were those... Yua didn't answer. Why wouldn't she talk to me? Please, just say something. Anything. Even still, she said nothing, which meant she must have realized that she'd been caught red-handed. I'd wanted to trust her so badly, and I'd been just starting to think that maybe Yua was actually on my side, that she could have been an ally.
誰も信じちゃダメ。誰の言葉にも耳を傾けちゃダメ。
You can't trust anyone. Don't listen to anything that anyone says. In the end, Seira was right. Greedy girls were the worst pieces of shit imaginable, every last one of them. Yua never liked me at all. She only wanted to get close because she had an ulterior motive. Maybe she wanted to turn me into the police, or maybe she wanted to blackmail me. God damn it. God fucking damn it. I'd almost forgotten all about that incident, yet here we go again. The police had never questioned me, so I thought that maybe, just maybe, I could go on pretending that it had nothing to do with me. All I wanted was to get away from those stupid murders, so why? What the hell was Yua really after here? No, I didn't even care anymore. I just wanted to run away as far as I could, so I went to turn around. But Yua quickly grabbed my wrist.
逃げるの？
Are you running away? Her voice sent chills down my spine. Her tone was so cold, it felt like my body might freeze over. Didn't even feel like she was the same person. It wasn't the Yua I thought I knew. And her grip. Her grip was way tighter than I'd have expected. It wasn't normal. Jolts of pain ran through my arm. My bones felt like they were being crushed. I tried to shake her off me, but she wouldn't let go. In fact, she was pulling me toward her, practically pinning my arm behind my back.
逃げるの？
Are you running away? From behind me, right by my ear, I heard a whisper that crushed any emotion I had left. With a shiver, I slowly turned around. She was staring at me. There was no longer any color left in those eyes of hers.
逃がさないよ。
I won't let you run.
騙してたことは謝るけど、お互い様だし。
I'm sorry for lying to you, but it's not like I was the only one.
あなただって隠してたことあるよね。
You have some things you're hiding too, don't you? I'm hiding things? Only a single thing crossed my mind. Somehow she knew that I had witnessed that staking murder. She knew that I had seen the perpetrator. And that was most likely why she tried to get close to me. I knew she was good. Too good. She'd had me wrapped around her little finger. Everything she told me was a lie. Her taking an interest in me from just one glance. Her liking Bloodtune. Her arranging to go with me to go pick up the Seira post-awakening version figure from the store when it went on sale. All her nice little comments as she'd listened to what I had to say. Her wanting to get to know me better. Her being worried about me when I didn't come to school. Her saying that she respected me. Everything. Everything that came from her mouth had been a lie. That thought killed me inside. I was overwrought with grief. I tightly clenched my fists. Fuck, fuck, fuck! Why had I believed a single fucking thing she'd
本当
said?
はもっと時間をかけて調べたかったんだけど、バレちゃったからしょうがないよね。
To be honest, I'd have liked a little more time to look into things, but the cat's out of the bag now, so there's no point pretending.
あなたに聞いてもらいたい話があるの。
I have something I want to ask you.
聞いてくれるよね。
You'll listen, right?
聞かないなんて言わないよね。
Surely you'll listen, won't you?
あなたは聞くべき。
You need to listen.
聞いて。
Listen to me.
聞くでしょ。
You're gonna listen, right?
聞かないなら。
If you won't listen... What? What'll happen if I don't listen? Yua was almost a completely different person now. The gentle and carefree atmosphere from before was completely gone. She felt completely unapproachable now. The atmosphere felt bizarre, like one molded from utter obsession. Her tone was as composed as could be, though perhaps cold as ice was a better description. Her usual femininity was completely gone. No, I didn't want to listen. I tried to cover my ears. But I couldn't. Yua was holding one of my arms. Her grip was weaker than a second ago, but she still didn't let go. I couldn't move my hand. And while we were in that deadlock, she took a dark gray, shiny object from her bag and held it out to me. I was petrified. My heart skipped a beat. Any composure I had left was gone. I was so shocked. The hand that was going to cover my ear just fell to my side. Before long, Yua's voice, now sounding almost regretful, reached my ears.
この十字架に見覚えあるよね。
You've seen this cross before, haven't you? Of course, I'd definitely seen it before. I wasn't sure what it was at first, but I quickly realized. It might have looked like a cross, but it was in fact a stake, and stakes with such a unique shape were not something you'd see every day. Or at the very least, I had only come across them once. That night, scattered across that alleyway. That night, as the demon girl nailed them into the wall. That night, as a corpse was being nailed onto the wall.
やっぱり知ってるのね。
So you do know of it. Unsurprising.
知ってるんでしょ。
You know, don't you?
知ってるに決まってる。
You definitely know.
知らないなんて言わせない。
Don't you dare claim you don't know.
知ってなくちゃおかしい。
It would be very odd if you didn't know.
知ってるよね。
I know you know.
知ってるよね。
You know, don't you? I frantically shook my head in denial. A disgusting cold sweat broke out on my brow. All I could do was wipe it away as I kept shaking my head as hard as I could.
これあなたの部屋にあったのよ。
I found this in your room.
あなたの部屋、
In your room.
ベッドの下、
Under your bed.
床に落ちてた。
Down on the floor.
落ちてたの。
It had fallen down there.
落としたよね。
You dropped it, didn't you?
それとも捨てた。
Or did you mean to throw it there?
とにかく落ちてた。
Either way, that's where it was.
落ちてたの。
Right on the floor. What the hell was this girl? When the fuck had she searched my room? Was it the day we'd first met? When my leg got injured and she'd come all the way to my room with me? When she'd seen my SciAdv figures and her face lit up all cute like a fucking Christmas tree?
この杭、外国製のすごく珍しい杭なのよ。
This stake is very unique. It was manufactured abroad.
それと、ニュージェネ第3の事件で使われた杭と同じ。
Moreover, it is the same as the stakes used in the third New Gen incident.
同じなの。
The exact same one.
同じよね。
It's the same, right?
同じなのは間違いない。
There's no way it isn't the same.
同じよ。
It's exactly the same.
遺体を壁に貼り付けにした杭と
Same as the ones used to nail that corpse onto the wall.
同じ。
The same one. I was convinced. This woman thought that I was the culprit behind New Gen. She thought I was some kind of insane cutthroat murderer. Did she think she was a detective or something? What, did she call herself Kusunoki Yua, ace high school detective or some shit? Fucking kill yourself, actually. That shit might have worked in an anime or video games. But this was real life, and little did she know, her reasoning had a fatal flaw. I knew who the real killer was. I'd seen her with my own two eyes. I'd seen that demon myself. Sure, I didn't know her name. but she'd been wearing the Suime uniform, which meant that she was someone I could know.
だから
So what? Yua suddenly hung her head and let out a small sigh. She loosened her grip on my wrist even more, then finally let go.
それ以上でもそれ以下でもないです。ただ、あなたが知ってるかどうかを確かめたかっただけ。本当はまだ言うつもりじゃなかったですし。
That's everything. I have nothing more to say. I just wanted to confirm that you actually knew about this stake. To be honest, I really wasn't intending to question you about it yet. What the fuck had she meant by yet?
それじゃあ、もう一つ確認させてください。
Since it's too late now, could you please confirm one more thing for me?
あなたには予知能力がありますか？
Do you have precognitive powers?
は？
I couldn't help but stand there with my mouth open. Precognitive powers? What the fuck? What did that have to do with the incidents? I tilted my head to the side, utterly perplexed. As I did, Yua's hand retreated into her bag once more, before taking out a picture printed in full color.
予知能力があるって思わなきゃ納得できないような画像データをあなたが持っていたから。
Well, right here is an unaccountable digital picture that can only be explained by precognitive powers. That's why I had to ask. The picture was that grotesque one Shogun had sent me. Why did Yua have it?
これ
That's...
あなたはどうしてニュージェネ第3の事件の再現画像を持っているんですか？
Why do you have an image that depicts the third New Gen case?
しかもこの画像が流出したのは事件の前日です。
And what's even more curious is how this image leaked the day before the incident.
あなたの使った PC にキャッシュが残ってました。
It was in the cache of the PC you always use.
違う
You don't understand. I'd gotten that image earlier that day when I chatted with Shogun. I hadn't made it myself. I downloaded it, so it must have still been in the history. That's it. I'll just show Yua that. Still though, how had Yua even gotten this image in the first place? You'd said it'd been in my computer's cache, but how could she have known that? When Yua would come into my room, she definitely hadn't had time to snoop around my PC.
まさか君が将軍か
Oh god, are you... Shogun? Was she trying to frame me? It was all a setup by Yua. She was the new gen killer, and now she was going to use me as a scapegoat in order to throw off the police, wasn't she?
助けて
Help me. It was all too much. Why did it have to be me of all people? Was it because I was a freak? Was it because I had no friends? Yua didn't say a word. She just shook her head lightly.
その画像はアットカフェルーム37の PC から拾ったんです。
I got this image from the PC in room 37 at Cafe.
あなたの PC もできれば調べたかったんですけど、その機会はさすがにありませんでした。
I'd have liked to look into your private PC too, but unfortunately I didn't get the chance. Room 37. That was the one I always used. This bitch really did her research. Yua looked at me with a slightly apologetic look. It almost felt like she turned back into the Yua I knew, if only for a moment. And while that happened, she started fishing around in her bag once more. But this time, she took out a page with text on it, then held it out to me. I had a bad feeling about this. Alarm bells were going off in my head, telling me not to look. But there was no way I could ignore it, because if I did, then I'd surely end up being framed.
それが
Everything there
あなたのすべてです。
is you. What the hell was that supposed to mean? Did that mean she had all of my personal information too? Was Yua some sort of hacker? I reached out and grabbed the printout, all while my heart was pounding out of my chest. But to my surprise, the page didn't have my personal information. It was just some chat log.
Huh?
The two members of the chat log were Neidhart and Shogun.
そのログ変ですよね。
That log is quite strange, don't you think?
え
Huh? What was so strange about it? Looked like a perfectly normal chat log to me. I definitely remembered having this conversation with Shogun.
ナイトハルトと将軍の
Neidhart and Shogun's timestamps
発言時間が全然噛み合ってないんです。
don't match up in the slightest.
あ、
Huh? What the hell? How is this possible?
そこにあるナイトハルトは西条区。発言時間は9月28日の午前3時だ。
The Neidhart there is you, Nishijo-kun. Those are your messages from 3 a.m. on September 28th.
そして翌日、あなたはアットカフェに行ってます。
And then the next day, you went to At Cafe.
西条くんがアットカフェに行くのは学校帰りと決まってる。
You only ever go to At Cafe after school.
そして学校に行くのは週に 2.5 回。あなたのクラスメイトから聞いたんですけど、先週あなたが学校に来た日は
And you only go to school 2.5 times a week. Your fellow classmates told me so. However, last week, you went to school on
月曜日、水曜日、木曜日。
Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
先週の月曜日は9月29日。将軍の発言時間と同じ日です。
Monday last week was September 29th. Same day Shogun's messages were sent. What? What was she talking about?
ルーム37の PC のチャットログを調べさせてもらいました。
I inspected the chat logs on Room 37's PC.
そこから分かったことは
And that's when I realized. For just a moment, Yua hesitated. Then she stared straight at me before breaking the cold, unfeeling truth to me.
あなた一人の自作自演。
Both members of that chat log were you. Don't look at me.
将軍は
This Shogun. Don't look at me.
あなた自身。
Is you.
何も見たくない。
I don't want to see anything.
何も聞きたくない。
I don't want to hear anything.
時間は一定じゃない。
Time is not a constant.
記憶には矛盾がある。
There are contradictions in my memories.
視界にはエラーがある。
There are errors in my point of view.
地球は回ってない。
The Earth isn't spinning.
これはきっとゲームなんだ。
This is just another game. I stuffed my mouth with some fish sausage as I turned on my PC.
僕じゃない。
I'm not me. Before long, my monitor shone brightly with Ceraton wallpaper.
僕がいるべき世界は
This world. I went straight to ESO and opened it up without an ounce of hesitation.
ここじゃないんだ。
Isn't the one I belong to. Alright, and with that, we'll go ahead and leave Chapter 2 until next time. But until then, class dismissed.